and welcome to Austin, Texas. 18 races down, 6 to go, and the United States Grand Prix is round 19. Now, it's our 4th sprint weekend of the season, 2 to go, and there are just 22 points separating Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris in contention for the Drivers' World title. McLaren, they've already been crowned 2025 World Champions. There is much at stake coming into this weekend. Welcome along to your weekend warm-up. And welcome down to a scorching pit lane. I've got a wonderful crowd alongside me who have been making so much noise as we've been building up to this weekend warm-up here in Austin, Texas for the United States Grand Prix. As I mentioned, a sprint weekend. Sun is bearing down. It's due to be hot the entirety of this race weekend. It has been declared another heat hazard. Now, before we get into all that's to come this weekend, let's take a look back at our first heat hazard race, and that was Singapore.
Welcome to Singapore. Both men on the front row have never won this Grand Prix.
I'm excited for this.
The Singapore Grand Prix is underway. It's not the launch that Max Verstappen was looking for. He's side by side with his teammate, and Oscar Piastri is millimetres away from the wall as Lando Norris gets by.
That wasn't very team-like, but sure.
It's going to be a lively debrief at McLaren. From downtown, that's a late-breaking move.
George Russell, it seems that he's got it well under control.
Oh, off the road goes Hulkenberg.
You can feel now mistakes creeping in.
Verstappen is struggling.
And there is the first offensive move. Norris is forcing him off the racing line. We're running out of laps in the Singapore Grand Prix. George Russell wins. McLaren, they are the Constructors' champions.
Congratulations, everyone.
Quite the evening for McLaren under the night lights in Singapore, crowned Constructors' World Champions. But this circus rumbles on to yet another venue, and here we are in the United States. It's always a huge race, isn't it? And already these fans here bringing so much energy. Jolyon, Ruth, Buscombe and James Hinchliffe, just a few of the vast number of people we have here for you this weekend to bring you all of the reaction, the analysis and build up to a sprint race and a Grand Prix. James Hinchliffe, hello. Good job in Singapore, loved your work.
Thank you.
Now, looking ahead, McLaren, Constructors' Champions, it seemed there was an element of inevitability about it, wasn't there?
There was, and I mean, what else can you say about them at this point, right? Such an incredible turnaround. You think of where this team was just 3 years ago, to claw themselves from the back of the grid up to 2-time consecutive Constructors' Championships in a series this competitive in this era is just so impressive. There's no words you can really say at this point for all the men and women, you know, back at the MTC that have gone into making this thing happen, all the way up to obviously the 2 drivers in the cars. Just incredible performance.
Yeah, you look back to Bahrain 23, and they were nowhere, Ruth, were they? It has been an incredible rise for the team, and accomplished performances by both drivers, and I guess the team values are what's got them to this point, albeit there may be some contention with them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think everyone in the paddock last season thought that McLaren were, you know, quite soft with their drivers. They didn't want it enough. And then they went and won the Constructors' Championship. The drivers was the one they didn't get last year. Now it looks like there's still maybe a 3-horse Texan showdown race. Max Verstappen, you never count him out the fight. But I'm interested to see, now the championship is done, will they finally change those papaya rules and let them go racing the way that Mercedes used to do once the Constructors was done?
Yeah, look, you can see the drivers' standings there on the side of your screen. It's 22 points, Jolyon, 6 races to go. You've got a late, somewhat distant charge at the moment from Max Verstappen, but focusing on those 2 McLaren drivers, we had another flashpoint in Singapore, didn't we? That turn 1 contact, the race radio that ensued. What did you make of it, and where do McLaren go from here? What precedence is all of this setting?
I think there's a few things in this. I thought it was a spicy bit of racing. I think Lando had to go for it. I think, you know, given half a chance to go down the inside of your title rival, you'd be a fool not to be sending this down the inside and taking a little bit of risk. Even if it's your teammate, doesn't matter. He's the championship leader, you can't afford to finish behind him. So I really liked the attempt. There was that little bit of contact. He first of all clipped the back of Max, sent him into an oversteer, and there we go, finds just a bit of wheel-to-wheel with Oscar as well. So I could see from Oscar's point of view why he's not particularly happy with it either. We get a better shot of it here on board. But look, you're second in the championship. You get this opportunity to come down the inside. Oscar can't defend. So you have to try and send it here. And in the end, it's a bit of light wheel-to-wheel contact. The stewards weren't interested in it. There was plenty of other contact, some heavier contact than that further back. The stewards also weren't interested in. So understandably, the issue is, what about McLaren's internal policy? And that is what caused the controversy. I like that they let them race on. I want to see them racing on the whole time now.
James, do you agree with what Lando said in the press conference immediately after the race, and albeit after now discussions and debriefs within the team over the last week or so, things may have changed in terms of their position? He said any driver would have done exactly the same, and if you don't agree with that, you shouldn't be in Formula One. Would you have done that? Is that a move that you'd have absolutely made on your title rival?
Yeah, I mean, Jolyon said it. You'd be a fool to not make that move. It was fairly innocent contact. It was good, hard racing. He didn't just drive into him. He got into the back of Max. That wasn't part of the plan. But look, racing rarely goes to plan. No harm, no foul. No damage to Oscar's car. It didn't cost him any more positions. And frankly, until they publish the papaya rules, and we know what they're actually supposed to do in those situations, I don't think you can criticize what McLaren did, or in this case, didn't do at all.
So is the issue the precedents that McLaren are setting? They're opening the door here for us to ask these questions, for the drivers to pipe up on the radio where they feel things are slightly unfair?
Entirely. So if Lando didn't go for that move, I think it would be weak. I think he'd have fallen behind Oscar and the championship lead would go out. It's Singapore. You don't get another chance to pass after the start. So he had to go for it. But why Oscar's feeling aggrieved is understandable, because just 2 races before that, he had to give up second place for a slow pit stop for Lando in the interest of fairness. And that's what McLaren are so keen on, keeping it fair between their 2 drivers. So in Oscar's mind, there's a big bang on the left-hand side, wheel bang, and that's meant he's been forced out wide, lost the position. And he's like, well, hang on, that's not fair. That's not an acceptable way to make the place. And I can understand that point of view as well. For me, it's hard racing. For me, they never should have done that switch in Monza. I think that is the sort of can of worms opened, and now it's out. It's there. I
just don't see it as an apples-to-apples situation, though. I mean, look, in Monza, the team was trying to remove themselves from the equation. The team made a mistake in the pits. Yes, that is part of racing, but ultimately that was their mistake that would have cost Lando a win. Here, it's 2 drivers on track racing. It's not exactly the same situation. I think the team's trying to keep themselves out of it and, as best as possible, let the drivers go at it.
But you're never going to get apples to apples. I mean, another slow stop, another second and third, but what happens if it's first and second? There's so many variables in the whole keeping it fair. I understand your point, the drivers then, that's out of the team's hands, so they let them race. I understand that Lando has since gone through it with the team and Oscar and accepted the blame for that bit of contact, so we'll see if that has any ramifications on their internal policies for this weekend. I just hope we see them racing. All of this manipulation of, was that fair, was it not? Come on, give me the place back. Forget it. Get them racing. We want to see a driver take his first title by doing brilliance on track. Personally, I like the aggression from Lando, and I want to see more of that. Wheel-to-wheel, hard stuff, fighting for a title.
Someone sound the get on with it, Jolyon Palmer buzzer. Yeah. You heard it here. But look, McLaren opening that Pandora's box, and we'll see how that transpires through the weekend in terms of what it means in racing here. Let's hear then from Oscar Piastri after the dust has settled from Singapore.
So, Oscar, the obvious question is, obviously you had that moment in Singapore. How did the talks go with Lando, with Andrea? Has anything changed? Have the rules changed? Is there any outcome to what happened?
I think that the talks from Singapore were very productive with everyone involved. I think the conclusion was what happened in Singapore is not how we want to go racing as a team, and ultimately Lando's taken responsibility for that. So. That's in the past now, and the rules won't change because of that. I think, ultimately we've got that framework in place for a reason, and there's no reason for that to change now. So, it's been dealt with, and now looking forward to the future.
Great stuff. Thanks, Oscar.
Okay, I know Lawrence Bretta is joining us. He was interviewing there Oscar Piastri. He'll probably have the line from Lando as well. So we're going to hear what Lando had to say. But it sounds like they have decided what happened in Singapore was not acceptable. And it seems to me a shame that we are talking about this while they've just won the Constructors' Championship. They are going to do the double this year with the drivers and the constructors. Max Verstappen may have something to say about it, but it seems to have taken the sheen off. And actually, when you come away from what's happening here and in Formula One, there is more that's happening elsewhere for McLaren as well. Alex Palou and Zach Brown. Take us back to the very origin of this, because it comes to IndyCar, doesn't it? That's your forte.
It does, it does. It's an interesting situation. I've never seen anything quite like this situation, to be honest, Laura. You had Alex Palou driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, winning championships with CGR, gets approached by McLaren to switch over to the IndyCar team, with Alex claiming very much a Formula One drive being on the cards. Now, this is around the time that Oscar Piastri then gets signed to McLaren. He's a pretty sporty young driver, and it doesn't look like there's going to be an opening at McLaren anytime soon. Palou feels he's been led on. He feels that he was misled in the potential of the Formula One seat, and so decided to break the contract with McLaren and stay with CGR. Now, McLaren didn't take too kindly to this. Zach Brown's taken it quite personally, and they are in the middle of litigation right now. There's a lot of circumstances around this. Palou admits that he broke a contract, but one of the things to remember at the time is that Palou's lawyers were being actually funded by Zach Brown when some of this went down. So to say conflict of interest could be involved, I think I'm not a lawyer. I feel like that's a term that applies here, but there's definitely, there's two sides to every story. Palou's putting his hand up and saying, yes, I broke contract, but it's because he felt like he was misled in the initial discussions.
We can take a look at some of the comments as well that have come from Palou. I'm just going to read you some of them now. Zach told me it was not his decision to hire Oscar Piastri. He said it was the decision of the team manager, Andreas Seidel. Zach told me Piastri's performance would be evaluated against mine for 2024. Zach said from his point of view, my chance of getting the F1 seat was not affected by Oscar. However, I knew everything had changed, and from that point on, I started to be more willing to stay with Chip Ganassi Racing, who are the stronger of the IndyCar outfit. Now, Zach has come back to that and said both allegations are clearly ludicrous, and anyone who follows our sport will see straight through them. What do you make to that?
A little spicy, isn't it? Well, I mean, Alex has done very well in IndyCar. He's won a couple of times in the meantime. And
staying put has worked out for him.
Staying put has worked out for him on that side of the pond, or this side of the pond, as we're hearing right now. It's one of those really tricky ones, because they're both two talented drivers that I personally think both deserve to be in F1 in some capacity. I'd love to see Alex one day in an F1 when he's finished winning an IndyCar.
But the decision to sign Oscar Piastri has not turned out too badly for McLaren either. So
hasn't.
Whoever signed him, whether it's Andreas Seidel, Zach Brown, whoever, it's an inspired signing. The guy's 3 years in now, and he's leading the championship.
Look, we'll see what happens in court. I suppose all the litigation that is to come. We'll keep you updated with all of that. Let's hear, though, from Max Verstappen, who is on an almighty charge for potentially getting involved in this title fight.
You've taken 41 points out of Oscar Piastri since the summer break. The RB21 looks like it's competitive everywhere. So just give us your thoughts coming into this weekend. You're going for the win, clearly.
We'll try, yeah, for sure. The last 3 weekends have been, very nice. Some a bit better than others. I still think that in Singapore we didn't maximize the potential of the car. But again, you analyze everything, right, and you try to do better, and that's what we'll try to do again here. I mean, it's a great track to drive. Sprint weekend, always a bit hectic, but just curious to see what we can do.
You mentioned Singapore. It reminds me of something Lando Norris was asked in the press conference on Thursday. He was asked how he rated your chances of winning the World Championship this year, and he said 10%. George Russell said 100%. What is the reality? I guess it's somewhere between that. What are your thoughts? Give us a percentage chance.
It's 50-50. Okay. Yeah, you either win it or you don't. So
50-50. You either win or you don't. It's a very Max Verstappen reply. We're bringing in Lawrence Barretto here as well. Just before we get on to Max, and we've just touched on all the McLaren stuff, we've heard from Oscar Piastri in terms of Lando taking the blame. What did Lando have to say on the matter?
Well, Lando was the one who brought up the fact there's going to be repercussions for what he did. So he opened by saying it was his fault, he accepted that, and then the team decided, agreed, and said it was his fault, and there are going to be repercussions. But when pushed on it, he wouldn't say, and Oscar wouldn't talk about what the repercussions are. So we're none the wiser at the minute.
What could those repercussions possibly be? James Hinchliffe shaking his head, Jolyon Palmer
Honestly,
shaking
the
his
whole
head.
thing's a nonsense.
Yeah.
And what's he going to do? Give up a place at the start of the race and let Oscar back through whenever it could be fighting for first or second?
It just feels.
Is he going to tow Oscar in qualifying? It's
the whole thing just
get on with it.
Feels so
please.
soft, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like top-level motor racing anymore. It feels
that's
like
the thing.
it's too contrived, it's too manipulated. Just let them go race. It wasn't that egregious a situation. I don't know. I'm confused by that statement that there's going to be repercussions.
Well, Lawrence, thank you for bringing us that statement.
You're welcome, I think.
I'll get an answer from each of you then. 50-50 says Max Verstappen. He's not going to be drawn on percentage chances in terms of whether he wins or not. But Jolyon Palmer, is he in the title fight? Can he do this?
He can because he's Max.
Yeah.
I think he won't because I think the gap is just too big. The McLarens will need to take each other out, I think, for Max to win it. But he's keeping them on their toes.
For sure.
In it, but real long shot still.
He's really going to disrupt things, isn't he? Because suddenly the point difference between P1 and P2, 7 points, becomes a P2 and P3 if Max is winning, and it's 3 points. So he really can play a part, whether he gets to them or not, in deciding how this all plays out. What do you think? I know it's Max Verstappen. Yes, he can. Will he?
He kind of needs another Baku. I think he needs a big chunk of points. I know he's taken 41 points out of Oscar in the last 4 races, so by that virtue, actually, he could cut that 63-point deficit. But I think he needs a difficult weekend like that. I don't think he cares at the minute about whether or not he's in the fight. I think he's just loving the fact he can either get in the fight of the McLarens and affect that, he can get to the end of the year and win all the races. I think that's kind of what he's thinking about, and then the title will come.
I think that's Max at his most dangerous, though.
Exactly.
He is just fighting for race wins now. He can get his elbows out. He knows the McLaren's are cautious because if Lando crashes trying to beat Max, then Oscar's going to be champion if he takes a 25-point hit. Vice versa, Oscar's got the championship lead. If he crashes fighting Max, it's going to cost him hugely. Max doesn't have this. You know, he can go and race for wins, and if he starts clocking them up, then he'll start to become more of a threat.
Max being Max, the Red Bull being what it's been the last few rounds, I mean, he could, on paper, conceivably still win every remaining race. The problem is he then also needs bad luck from the McLaren side. So even controlling what you can control, it's still a very tall order. But I do think he is going to play a crucial role in who does end up being the world driving champion if it's not him. He's going to have a big effect on whether Lando or Oscar gets it if he starts taking points off him.
He already is with the performance that he's having now, because the gap. Remember when Lando had his DNF in Zandvoort, and we were thinking, well, it's a 7-point swing every race with the performance that McLaren had. Now they don't have that. It's a 3-point swing because Max is taking the big points. So it's 3 points difference, which means even though Lando's been ahead in every race, then it's only just nudging down to 22 points from 34. So Max is already kind of helping Oscar by taking points away from Lando when Oscar's been struggling a bit more.
That RB21 has turned such a corner as well, because you've had brilliant performances at 3 very different tracks, including Singapore, a bit of a bogey track. In terms of that second Red Bull seat, what are we hearing? You've got Arvid Lindblad, you've got Isaac Hadjar. I don't know what's going on track, but it's suddenly got pretty chaotic here. I'm kind of loving it. Lawrence, driver market chat, what's going on?
So they've essentially got Isaac Hadjar, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson and Arvin Lindblad up from F2 to choose from for the 3 seats, 1 at Red Bull and 2 at Racing Bulls. It's looking like Hadjar is the favourite. It seems like internally senior management don't want to hang around. They believe you've got to just get in, deliver. If you don't, we'll move you out. And that's the Red Bull way. So I think their desire is to put Hadjar in the Red Bull seat and bring Arvin Lindblad up into Racing Bulls, even though he only finished 7th in F2 this year. That is just how they feel it. And that means that Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda are going to have to fight over that remaining Racing Bull seat. And at the moment I'm hearing it's Yuki's kind of got the edge on that. But they're not in a massive rush to decide, but I suspect we'll know around Mexico, Brazil, that kind of time.
Okay, thank you. The police here are just doing a very thorough job of clearing the pit lane. That's what you just heard, and we just got a firework into the sky as well. It's all going on down here. The crowd were also singing happy birthday. Just to be clear, it's none of our birthdays. It is Charles Leclerc's birthday. Ferrari obviously with the 1-2 here last year. What can they do this year? Right, we're going to go on to some more contract news, and that, of course, is It felt inevitable that we'd see the George Russell and Kimi Antonelli announcement. Toto himself said it was a matter of when, not if, but we were waiting for the details. Let's hear from George Russell then on those details. George, win in Singapore and a new contract. It's been quite the couple of weeks for you. What can you tell us about the contract? How long is it and how challenging were negotiations to this point?
Oh, it's a long one. I think about 52 pages roughly.
It's a very good answer, George. I think you know what I meant. How many years are we talking?
Yeah, definitely 2026. No. It's multi-year, obviously. Contract is a very sort of private and personal thing. So, of course, I'm not going to be showing what every single detail. But, for me, looking into next year, there was a lot of things I wanted off track to get right to allow me to perform at my very best on track, and the truth is, if every single seat was available and I could choose any single seat to race for in 2026, I would choose to be with Mercedes. So I truly think that is the place that will give me the best chance of winning the World Championship next year. With everything I know now, we might turn out to be wrong, but with everything we know now, I'm feeling really happy with the deal we've done, confident with the team, and looking forward to moving onwards and upwards.
I think George enjoyed that little funny, didn't he? 52 pages long, a contract, but look, it's multi-year, whether that means the 1+1 and seeing how those 26 new era regs go down and whether Mercedes have got it right, whether that's 2 years, he would not be drawn. But it seems the right fit. And he reiterated to a number of different journalists as well when I was in the pen that line, if every single seat was available, I'd still be a Mercedes driver, Jolyon. Do you think this gives him the best chance for a world title in 26? If Mercedes get it right?
If they get it right, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a big reg change. That's the thing. If you've been watching for the last few years, you'd think, leave Mercedes, George. They seem to be, they have these flash moments of being really quick, but they don't understand the car. But the new regulations coming in for next year throw things wide open, and there's a belief in the paddock that Mercedes have a good edge on performance right now. We're still a fair way away from the cars hitting the ground, and it's all from simulator and data that we've got from the cars right now. But that's obviously what George believes as well, and so he's in a good position.
But I think because the regulations are changing, I think this is why we've got this multi-year deal that isn't what I would describe as a traditional multi-year, in that there is this option at the end on both sides for them to escape, because I think a lot of drivers want that option and a lot of teams want that option because they want to have the choice as whether or not they want to jump ship maybe to another team that's really nailed these current regulations. And from a team perspective, if Max Verstappen's available, Mercedes want to make sure that they've got a seat available to put him into. So it kind of works for both sides to leave this contract open.
But surely, if you're Mercedes and you've got the car to beat in 2026, and for 2027, Verstappen says he's leaving Red Bull, would love to go to Mercedes, with the way George Russell's performing, you're not replacing George Russell for Max Verstappen. And that's not a shot at Kimi Antonelli. Max is Max, right? It's a different conversation. But between the two, if you're trying to make the strongest driver lineup, you'd keep George and add Max, wouldn't you?
But that's what Toto's got to decide at the end of the day. It's what he gets paid the big bucks, presumably. But I think that at the minute, for him, he sees Kimi Antonelli as the long-term future. And I think maybe you kind of give up the fact that George maybe, even if he wins the World Championship next year and Max is available, you kind of give up that fact because Kimi might give you 5 or 6 titles down the line.
And with this, you've always got to remember the first year of Oscar and Lando at McLaren, 2023. And if you'd saying at the end of that Alex Palou's going to come in, you'd have got rid of Oscar, definitely. I mean, Lando was definitely the number one. Even last year, he was still the number one. And then with a bit of time, Kimi's still so young, he's still developing. That is going to be the hope. Drivers don't just step in. Even look at Lewis at Ferrari. It takes time to get some experience and some know-how in these cars. So I think that's why Kimi's got the new deal, and there's firm belief at Mercedes. You never know where it's going to go for 27.
And obviously with Kimi as well, getting this confirmation that he's a Mercedes driver for at least one more year, that he is now locked into that team and has the confidence behind him. What impact that will have on his performances, we'll wait and see. Speaking of other rising young stars in the Formula One world, let's see a little teaser of how James Hinchliffe got on in his Haas test.
Not many people get the opportunity to jump into a Formula One car. This is a proper TPC program day. on proper tires at a proper racetrack, these cars are something different, and it's incredible. This is taking fast to a whole new level. No amount of training gets you ready for what these cars are capable of.
Oh, I cannot wait. I've heard the footage is absolutely amazing. Go on, give us a glimpse then. How was it? Was it a young James Hinchliffe dream come true?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 14-year-old James was very, very thrilled with that opportunity. And look, it was such an exciting day. There's so much to talk about, so much to tell you about. We'll wait for the full feature, which is going to show in the pre-race show on Sunday. But yeah, can't thank Haas enough. Can't thank everybody involved. Absolute bucket list day.
Jolyon Palmer's itching to get an F1 test. He's scanning this pit lane to see which team may take him. Sorry, and we'll see if we can find you something.
A lot of firm nose.
Right, Ruth, let's talk track strategy. Welcome back. The track, let's start there. What are the challenges of this place?
Well, this track is a track of kind of 3/3. You've got sector 1, you've got this massive elevation into turn 1, the high-speed S's, but then after that, you've got low-speed technical corners. And what I love about this track is the big straights to overtake. We come from Singapore, where one of the hardest tracks of the season to overtake, to one of the easiest. It's only around 6/10, which for strategy makes it a fun one. Because when you look at what actually the tyres are going through here, it's huge. It's the 4th highest tyre stress of the entire season. That's because we put a lot of energy into them, but it's also really bumpy and it is really hot round here. So it's the front tyres that really do take a pounding on every single one of the corners around this track. Now, last year, going into the race, there was this big conversation about whether it was going to be a 1-stop, whether it was going to be a 2-stop. We always have that conversation here. And Charles Leclerc won with a kind of classic medium hard strategy. So coming back here, it could have sounded rather easy. Actually, it's not, because Pirelli have introduced a Texas 2-step. So like we have it in Spa, we've got a jump. So instead of having the C2 as the hard, we have the C1 as the hard, which makes it rather tricky because the difference in the pace of the C1 to the C3 is around a second a lap. So on paper, your medium hard strategy can actually be quite slow. That hard tire could be sliding around here, really, really tough on the tires. So teams are left with deciding whether or not they want to take an extra 20-second pit stop and do a soft medium 2-stop race, maybe even try and get a soft medium to work, and they've got a sprint to put into that as well. Last year, everybody did it on the C3 tire. I want to see if that's the same again this year. And of course, virtual safety cars here happen all the time, which can push the race into a 2-stopper itself. And it's going to be hot every single day. The tires are going to be howling, screaming. It's going to be a full-on rodeo for the strategists and the drivers alike.
Oh, there you go. That's more than whet the appetite. You could see the temperatures there. As we mentioned at the start, this another heat hazard race, the second one in a row. And Pirelli are also bringing a stepping compound to Mexico. The added jeopardy, of course, here is that it's a sprint race. There's only 1 hour of practice. It makes the conundrum of how to take on this weekend all the greater and a lot more fun for all of us. Guys, you were out on the track earlier on, weren't you? Did you have some fun out there?
I had a lot of fun, yeah. I was driving, Hinch was passenger.
I had less fun, but yeah.
He was so calm. I had Davide last time out in Monza, and he was wailing, he was howling. I thought, right, let's get a Hinch now. Such a pro.
As I said, though, I mean, Davide reading the Saturday morning newspaper would be more animated than me, probably at my most animated. So it's not a fair comparison. You had me worried a couple times. You had it on edge. It was fun. It was a fun ride.
I can vouch for that after the Silverstone Copse Corner. A wheel into the gravel. I thought we were absolutely gone. Let's take a look then, shall we? Jolyon's track.
Here we go then, with Lando Norris, the pole lap from last year, and it's such a buzz driving around here. 20 corners, the first of which is uphill for turn 1, 190 miles per hour, down to 60, down to 55 for an apex third gear, and we're going to get on the gas, flat out through turn 2. Quick right-hander, which leads into the Maggots-Beckett-esque section of Austin, the sweeping right, left, right, and a longer corner here as Lando just starts to fight the wheel a little bit as the tyres get super hot through the front and the rear in this high-speed section. Punch out of the top there through turn 8, and now we're going to look at the braking zone here at turn 11. straight line braking, down to, again, 50 miles per hour at the apex, and the exit is absolutely critical because it leads on to this really long straight, up towards 1 kilometre long, with the DRS as well now open. We're going to fly past 200 miles per hour and search for a braking point. It's there, the marker on the right-hand side, about 100 metres in, and now use all the road on the exit because it's flat and it's forgiving, and it's given us great racing in the past few years as well. This is a tricky corner. Through 13, don't mind those first 2 apexes, but pick up this final left-hander at 15. Squeeze on the gas, using all the road once again. 3rd gear, flat out now, up through 4th, 5th and 6th. Pick 7th through the final apex before we break for the difficult turn 19, one of the hardest on the track. Keep it within track limits. You can see Lando fighting it right to the end there. Final corner, tyres screaming, but he's through there, and that's a lovely lap for pole position.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Thank you so much, Jolyon, to talk us round this brilliant circuit of the Americas. Keep your eye on turn 1 and turn 12, key overtaking opportunities. Let's take a look then at the weekend schedule here. It's a sprint format, so this is how it looks. 12:15 building up for FP1, 60 minutes of practice. That is all these teams and drivers get. Then we're into qualifying, sprint quali 4:15, building up ahead of a shorter qualifying format. Through to Saturday, 11:20, we'll be on the grid for the pre-sprint show, the sprint at midday here in Austin, the post-sprint show immediately afterwards. Then it's a reset. Cars out of Parc Fermé, take the learnings, move into qualifying for the Grand Prix. Pre-qualifying show at 3:30, qualifying at 4 p.m, and the post-qualifying show straight afterwards. And then on to Sunday, 12:50, you get an extra big pre-race show here in Austin. 2 p.m. start for the United States Grand Prix. As ever, your post-race show on YouTube and F1 TV immediately after the podium to bring you all of the reaction. Okay, guys, thank you for all of this analysis that we've had today and building up to the weekend. I cannot wait for this and what is going to happen. Your final thoughts, please, heading into the United States Grand Prix weekend, sprint race, your predictions as well.
Feels a big one, doesn't it? Off the back of Singapore, I'm fascinated to see how the McLaren balance of power is going to shift. I'm fascinated to see what ramifications there are for Lando after the incident in Singapore. My predictions are Max wins and keeps himself in the fight. Let's go Lando 2nd, Oscar 3rd again. And the championship gap just narrows again, but Oscar keeps the lead.
Wow.
I hate it when I agree with you. It's so annoying. I think the exact same top 3. You know, Lando's had the edge over Oscar here. That Red Bull, I think, is going to work around here. Max, pretty speedy. But yeah, I want to see how the McLaren drivers race up into that turn 1.
Look, sprint race, 1 practice session to get it right. That's sometimes tricky to do, even with a really good car. So I want to see guys out of position. We're at a track that you can pass. High tire degradation usually makes for good racing. I'm just looking for 2 good shows.
You're not giving me a prediction at all.
Oh, no, what he said. I actually...
Okay,
full house. Yeah.
So we're saying a Max Verstappen win,
yeah.
Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. I'm tempted to agree. We'll see.
I don't think we've ever had 4 out of 4.
Should we do it just
we
for...
can all be wrong together.
One of a kind. Let's do it.
Okay, there you go. We all agree. I was going to say I'll put Oscar ahead of Lando. We don't know what these repercussions may be, but I doubt it's going to be a race swap. Surely
it won't be.
Not. Brilliant stuff. Thank you guys so much. We've got so much to bring you through the United States Grand Prix. Do not miss a second here on F1 TV. We'll see you tomorrow for practice 1. Bye-bye.
This is the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And the US Grand Prix is underway. Max Verstappen sends Lando Norris wide. Through goes Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton wins the US Grand Prix.
Already gone and done it, mate. World champion in town. Thank you guys so much. That's the greatest moment of my life. You cannot go into the corners crashing with other cars.
Can Verstappen hang on to it? They both go off the road.
Oh, took me outside the track.
It is game on in Austin.
Let's go! It's an unbelievable atmosphere. 10 out of 10 experience.
A masterclass from Ferrari's favourite son.
That's my boy. Let's go!